I worked the night shift at a small community hospital. I was proud of my work. A few months ago, I felt like I was helping those who really needed care. The hospital sat on the outskirts of town, with its beige walls and flickering lights. At night, the halls were mostly empty. The only sounds were machines beeping softly. On my third shift, I walked to the storage room. I heard a noise. It was a soft thud followed by dragging. I paused. Maybe it was just supplies shifting. I told myself that and moved on. But a knot twisted in my stomach. I felt uneasy. As the weeks went by, something odd began to happen. Patients would wake suddenly, hearts racing. They'd claim they saw shadows moving at the foot of their beds. I dismissed it. I thought it was stress or a side effect of their medications. But I started seeing those shadows myself. One night, I went to check on Mrs. Thompson, a sweet lady in room 204. As I came close to her door, something darted past the window. A cold chill prickled my skin. I hesitated but knocked anyway. Mrs. Thompson opened her eyes, looking terrified. There was a shadow right there. She pointed toward the corner. I didn't see anything, but my heart started racing. Another night, I sat alone in the nurse's station. I heard someone call my name. Kyle, it echoed softly. I stood up and looked around. I even called out, but there was nothing, just silence. The hairs on my neck stood up. Was it the isolation getting to me, or was something more happening? One shift in the ICU, a patient sat up suddenly. He yelled, "It's right there. It's watching me." I rushed over, trying to calm him. He pointed to the foot of his bed, claiming he saw a figure. I couldn't see anything. Cold sweat trickled down my forehead. I thought about the noises in the storage room. I began to wonder if it was all in my head. The experiences blurred together. I questioned my sanity. I wanted to talk to my coworkers, but I feared they'd think I was crazy. It felt like I was trapped in something I couldn't understand. Then one night, as I turned off the lights, I heard a whisper right behind me. Kyle, I froze. Was I imagining it? I didn't dare turn around. I held my breath. Finally, I looked over my shoulder. Nobody was there. Did I think about that night often? I wasn't sure what I saw or heard, but those experiences haunted me. Sometimes I hear a noise and my heart races. I wonder what happened during those shifts. The shadows still linger in my mind. I just can't shake them. The next shift started like any other. I arrived at the hospital just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The fluorescent lights flickered to life, casting an eerie glow. As I walked through the empty halls, I tried to steady my nerves. The shadows loomed larger than ever in my mind. That night, I was assigned to the pediatric ward. Most of the kids were asleep, but a little boy in room 105, Tommy, was wide awake. "Nurse Kyle," he said, his voice trembling. "There's a person in my room." I glanced around, my heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, Tommy?" He sat up, pointing toward the closet. "Right there. I swear I saw someone." I squinted but saw nothing. "Tommy, it's probably just your imagination. You know how dreams can feel real." He shook his head vigorously. "No. I was awake. I saw a shadow move. It had big eyes." I tried to calm him but felt my own anxiety creeping in. I had been doubting my senses lately. I left the room, wanting to shake off the tension. As I walked down the hallway, I passed the storage room. The soft thud I heard weeks ago echoed back to me. It had been a long time since I visited that room. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open. Inside, the air was cold, different from the warmth of the rest of the hospital. I scanned the shelves filled with supplies, searching for answers to the odd events. That's when I saw it. A shadow darted past my peripheral vision. My pulse quickened. I stepped forward, peering into the corner. Something small and dark flicked behind a box. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but my curiosity got the better of me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. Silence answered me. I took a step back, heart racing, and felt a cold rush over me. Was it a trick of the light? Or was my mind playing games again? I shook my head and turned to leave, but the door slammed shut behind me. I jumped, heart pounding. I pulled at the knob, but it wouldn't budge. Just as panic set in, I heard the whisper again. "Kyle." This time, it was closer, and with it came a sense of dread. I threw my weight against the door, desperation clawing at my throat. With one final push, it swung open, and I stumbled into the hall, gasping. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. The hospital felt different now, darker. I started walking back to the nurse's station, wanting to talk to someone, anyone. But as I reached the central area, I noticed the lights flickering more violently. Then, just like that, everything went dark. The silence pressed in around me, broken only by the sound of my heartbeat. Was I dreaming? I fumbled for my phone, the glow my only hope in the engulfing darkness. A chill crept along my spine. I wasn't alone. Someone or something was here with me. I felt the darkness pressing down on me. It was suffocating. I unlocked my phone, the light cutting through the gloom. I scanned the corridor, searching for any sign of movement. The air felt charged, and I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching me. "Hello?" I called out, anxiety quaking my voice. It was absurd to expect a reply in the silence. But the hospital had never felt this empty before, this alien that I stepped cautiously towards the nurse's station, my feet echoing in the void. The once familiar path now seemed labyrinthine, elongated, as if the shadows themselves were shifting and reconfiguring the layout. I reached the station, relieved to see the emergency lights were flickering faintly, illuminating the desk stacked with papers. That's when I heard a soft, deliberate scratching sound coming from the direction of the pediatric ward. My heart raced. I should have gone home, I should have let someone else cover for me. But I couldn't ignore it. I had to know if it was Tommy or something worse. That I made my way back down the hall, moving cautiously. As I approached room 105, the scratching grew louder, frantic, like someone or something tried to escape. My hand hovered over the doorknob, hesitating. "Tommy?" I called softly, fearing the worst. The noise stopped. An unsettling quiet enveloped me. I pushed open the door, my stomach knotting with dread. The room was dimly lit, shadows gathering in the corners. Tommy's bed was empty. "Tommy?" My eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign. His small teddy bear lay abandoned on the bed. I stepped inside, every instinct warning me to turn back. Suddenly, the closet door creaked open slowly. I froze. It was just a closet, I told myself. But the darkness behind it felt alive, watching me. I took a hesitant step closer, the scratching starting again, now from inside the closet. "Please, let me out," a small voice whimpered, sent chills through my body. It wasn't Tommy's voice. This voice was different, twisted. I swallowed hard, adrenaline pouring through my veins. "Who are you?" I demanded, forcing my voice to sound steady. "Where's Tommy? Help me." The voice begged again, rising in pitch. It was desperate, laced with fear. I stepped back, my mind racing. What was happening? That was when I caught movement from the corner of my eye. A shadow flitted past the doorway. My heart lurched. Without thinking, I bolted from the room, the cold air biting at my skin. I sprinted down the hall, skidding to a stop when I reached the nurse's station. But when I turned back to check the pediatric ward, the lights exploded back on, bright and harsh. I squinted against the glare, and just like that, the hospital seemed to breathe again. But where was the boy? I grabbed my phone and dialed the security desk. As it rang, I spotted something on the floor near room 105, a small toy soldier, its plastic face marred by a crack. I bent down to pick it up and froze. The sound of soft giggles echoed around me, impossibly close. I dropped the toy in shock. It felt wrong to have it in my hands. The laughter faded into silence, leaving me standing there, trembling. Someone was here, and I didn't know if I wanted to find out who. I couldn't shake the image of the toy soldier from my mind. Its cracked face seemed to leer at me, taunting me with the very idea that I was still here, alone. I felt a flicker of panic rising in my chest, fighting to break free. I needed to see Tommy, to know he was safe. I glanced down the corridor again. Every shadow seemed to hide something sinister. I couldn't keep standing still, I had to move. I turned back towards room 105, my resolve hardening. I needed to find out what was happening and I needed to find Tommy. As I entered the pediatric ward, the atmosphere felt thick with unease. I walked down the white-tiled hall, each step echoing as if unrelated to my own presence. The lights flickered once more, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to ripple alongside me. I felt eyes on me again. "Tommy?" I called, louder this time. "Are you here?" No answer. Just silence. The kind that crawls under your skin. Determined, I continued to room 106, hoping someone else would be inside, perhaps a nurse or another child. As I reached the door, I felt an icy draft slither past me. Something was off. I hesitated, hand poised over the doorknob, before shoving the door open. The room was empty. Just an unmade bed, the sheets crumpled as if someone had hurriedly left. I took a step inside, peering around the small space. And that's when I noticed something glittering in the corner, half hidden under the bed. I bent down, my heart pounding with every inch I moved closer. It was a bracelet, a child's bracelet, with tiny plastic charms that jingled softly as I picked it up. I turned it over in my hand. "Jessica," it said, inscribed in delicate letters. Tommy had mentioned a friend, Jessica, once. I shivered at the thought. Suddenly, I heard it again, a light laughter, not echoing this time, but right behind me. I straightened up, instinctively spinning around. No one was there. Just an empty room cloaked in shadows. My back tingled with unease. I had to get out. I stepped back toward the door, almost tripping over my own feet. As I crossed the threshold, a flash of movement caught my eye from the corner of the room. I turned sharply, and the laughter echoed again, this time, accompanied by faint, barely audible whispers. "Help us." I bolted back to the nurse's station, anxiety surging through me like a current. Why was I hearing voices? Where were the staff? The hospital felt like a ghost town, and I was its sole occupant. I reached the station, and I nearly dropped my phone into the chaos of papers on the desk as I dialed security once again. "Please, someone answer," I whispered, my breath rapid and strained. But there was no answer. Only quiet rustling from the pediatric ward behind me. Against my better judgment, I turned to face the corridor. Something had shifted in the air. The lights began to flicker ominously overhead, casting erratic shadows. I felt terror wash over me like a wave. Then, I saw a figure standing at the far end of the hall. Small, slender, and shrouded in darkness. My breath caught. It was too far to see clearly, but I could make out the vague outline of a child. "Tommy?" I called out, my voice shaky. The figure turned, but instead of running toward me, it began to retreat into the dark. A primal scream screamed in my chest, but no sound came out. Then, everything went dark. I blinked, momentarily disoriented by the sudden darkness. My heart raced as I strained to see anything. Had I stumbled into some shadowy trap? I stepped forward, casting a glance back toward the nurse's station. It was now draped in an unsettling gloom, the computer screens flickering like dying stars. "Tommy!" I called again, desperation spilling into my voice. No reply. The echo of my cry faded into the disconcerting silence. I felt for the wall, hesitant, trying to ground myself in reality. My fingers brushed against the cold surface, and I continued down the corridor, pushing aside the rising tide of fear swirling within me. As I moved carefully forward, I stumbled upon something slick on the tiled floor. My shoes slid slightly, and panic surged. Was it blood? I knelt to examine it closely. No, just water. But where had it come from? I stood up quickly, shaking my head. Then, I heard it again, a soft giggle, this time closer, almost right next to me. My skin prickled. Who's there? I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. Hurry, a voice whispered, chilling in its urgency. It was Tommy's voice. Please. My heart jumped, both a thrill of hope mixed with illness. I pushed myself forward, chasing the sound. Tommy. I'm coming. I rounded a corner, entering a small play area filled with scattered toys, dolls, and crayons all strewn about. A single flickering bulb struggled to illuminate the space. The laughter was gone, replaced by a soft, persistent thump. It came from the adjacent room, room 107. I approached the door cautiously, my breath hitching again. Tommy? I whispered, every ounce of dread cascading over me. The thumping continued, rhythmic but erratic, as if something was trying to break free from inside. Hand trembling, I turned the doorknob, pushing it open just a crack. In that moment, the thumping stopped. Pure silence enveloped me. I leaned in, peering through the narrow gap. The room was dark, a barren wasteland of emptiness. Then, without warning, a shadow darted past the window. I jerked back, heart racing. It felt like time itself had frozen for a terrible second before the world rushed back in. I didn't know what I saw, but my instinct screamed danger. Tommy. The word exploded out of me, a prayer forming on my lips. I had to know if he was safe. Without waiting for an answer, I threw the door wide open. Inside, the bed was meticulously made, no sign of distress, no sign of Tommy. I felt dizzy. The only thing in the room was a small, ragged teddy bear, sitting upright and staring directly at me. Its button eyes were lifeless and dull, yet somehow unnervingly aware. Just as I reached for the toy, the lights flickered harshly, and everything plunged into darkness again. This time, fear wrapped a tight grip around my throat. I could hardly breathe, and again, I heard a voice, closer now. Help us. Someone was in the hospital, and it wasn't just the children. I stumbled back, adrenaline pushing me as I dashed into the hallway. I had to escape whatever was lurking within these walls, whatever was waiting for me and those innocent kids. Just as I turned the corner, the lights flickered back on. And then I saw her, a girl, standing quietly at the end of the corridor. Long hair, pale face, her eyes boring into me. The same empty stare as the teddy bear. Then, she smiled that I froze, terror root-sapping my strength. I couldn't look away as a new wave of dread crashed over me. Why did everything feel so wrong? Help us, she echoed softly before retreating into the shadows once more. I wanted to scream, to turn away, but the heaviness in the air held me in place. Just when I thought I would collapse, I caught sight of something shining on the floor behind the girl, a flash of silver. An inscription caught my eye, "Forever with us." I stumbled backwards, my mind racing. What was happening? And what did it all mean? I took off running, but I knew whatever was haunting the hospital wouldn't let me go easily. I raced down the corridor, my thoughts jumbled and panic clawing at the edges of my mind. The flickering lights above me felt like a heartbeat, matching the rapid rhythm of my own. I didn't dare look back at the girl with the haunting smile, afraid of what I might find. Each step echoed in the empty hallways, amplifying my terror. I skidded to a stop just outside room 108. It was Tommy's room, it had to be. I pressed my ear against the door, straining to hear anything, any sign of movement, of life inside. Nothing but silence met me. My hand hovered over the doorknob. How could I open it after everything I had seen, everything I had heard? Tommy, I whispered, hoping against hope. Can you hear me? The air around me felt heavy, charged with an oppressive energy. I could feel the darkness curling around me, trying to seep into my skin. I shook my head and forced down my fear. I couldn't leave him here. Wherever here was that. I turned the knob and stepped inside. The room was just like I remembered, sterile white walls and the smell of antiseptic. But the bed was empty. Fear surged anew. Tommy. I called, my voice breaking. Tommy, where are you? I searched frantically, ripping open the closet doors and checking beneath the bed. My heart sank deeper with each passing moment. Then I noticed it, the bear, the same disheveled toy I had seen earlier in room 107. It sat innocently on the small nightstand, staring at me with its soulless eyes. That I snatched the bear up, holding it tight as if it could offer comfort in this nightmare. That's when I noticed something odd. There was a small latch at the bottom of the bear's foot, almost hidden. I pulled on it instinctively, and the foot flipped open to reveal a tiny piece of paper. With shaky hands, I unfolded the note. They're watching, it read in uneven letters, the handwriting unfamiliar and shaky. The weight of dread smashed into me like a freight train. Who had written this? I looked around the empty room, feeling the temperature drop, my breath visible. Before I could react, the lights flickered again, a heavy buzzing filling the air. No. Not again, I murmured, backing away from the bed. It was a mistake to come in here, I should have left. The shadows pressed at the edges of my vision, creeping closer and closer. That I bolted back toward the door but stopped when I heard children's laughter resonating down the hall. It was a sound I knew far too well, a joyful echo that was dangerously out of place. Tommy, is that you? I shouted, my voice caught in my throat. Then came a voice, distinct and clear. Play with us. The laughter morphed into a cacophony, reverberating through the hospital like a sinister siren. Beyond the door, tiny hands appeared in the windows, their laughter turning into cries. The ghostly children rushed toward me, their faces pale and distorted, mimicking joy, yet exuding something terrifying. That I felt my heartbeat quicken as I pushed the door open, ready to face these phantoms. But before I could escape, a shadow enveloped me. It was behind me, all around me, too many small hands, too many little voices harmonizing in a chilling melody. Then everything went dark. That I gasped, struggling against the suffocating void. Suddenly, from the blackness, a crescendo built. Come and play forever, the voices sang. That's when I realized I was no longer in the corridor. I was somewhere deeper, somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. And the children? They didn't just want to play. They wanted me with them. Forever. I woke up with a start, disoriented and gasping for air. My body felt heavy, as if it had been weighed down while I was trapped in that black void. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the dim light. I was lying on the floor of what looked like a room out of a nightmare. The walls were peeling, crooked pictures hung askew, and a faint smell of decay lingered in the air. I tried to stand but stumbled back, my hands bracing against the cold floor. Where was I? I pushed myself to my feet, heart racing. The laughter was gone, but the echoes of it lingered in my mind, taunting me. I scanned the room. It seemed abandoned, yet there was an unsettling feeling that I wasn't alone. Tommy. I called, my voice shaky. There was no answer. Each of my footsteps echoed as I crossed the room, heading for a door on the far side. My pulse quickened again, and I paused, listening. Instead of silence, I heard whispering, small, hurried sounds like a group of children sharing secrets. My breath caught in my throat. What if those voices belonged to the same kids that had chased after me before? Little phantoms looking for a playmate? I didn't want to stick around to find out, but I had to search for Tommy. He needed me. I opened the door cautiously, revealing another hallway, dark and winding. The air felt stale, heavy. I stepped through, trying to quiet my nerves. As I moved forward, the whispers grew louder, forming fragmented words that slid into my consciousness. It imbued the air with a sinister warmth, wrapping around me like a blanket. Come play, come find us. I turned sharply at a sound. A shadow darted around the corner of the hallway. My instincts kicked in. I took off in pursuit, adrenaline pushing me to move faster. I rounded the corner, heart pounding, only to find myself in a deserted room filled with toys scattered across the floor. Old dolls with cracked porcelain faces stared back at me. It felt as if they were trapped in a frozen state, waiting for someone to bring them to life again. Tommy? I whispered, feeling my throat tighten. Are you here? In the corner, I spotted a small figure huddled by a window, a boy with unkempt hair and a dull expression. My heart lurched. Was it Tommy? His form was indistinct, blending into the murkiness. Tommy. It's me. I called, rushing toward him. But as I neared, the figure began to dissolve, shadows swirling around him like smoke. Panic surged through me. I reached out, desperate to touch him, to confirm he was real, but he vanished before I could grasp anything. Where are you? I yelled, feeling a fresh wave of despair crash over me. The whispers morphed into laughter again, echoing off the walls. The shadows thickened around me and the room began to spin. I stumbled back, pulse racing as realization hit me. Whatever was happening was trying to keep me here. I had to escape before I became another part of this twisted game. I turned to flee, intent on finding an exit, but something grabbed my arm. I twisted around, ready to fight, but there stood the girl with the haunting smile. Her eyes glimmered with a macabre delight. Stay and play, she said softly, her voice dripping with a seductive chill. We want you to have fun. I felt something break inside me as those words washed over me. And at that moment, I knew if I didn't find a way out soon, I might just become part of the game too. The laughter rose, filling the room once more, and I knew the chase was far from over. I bolted from the room, urging my legs to move faster despite the weight of fear dragging me down. The girl's laughter followed me, echoing in my head. She was playing with me, toying with my despair. I couldn't let her catch me. I sprinted down the hallway, my heart thrumming like a drum. The whispers grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of voices. Come back, stay with us. It was as if the walls themselves were alive, carrying the haunting chant. At the end of the hallway, I spotted another door. With no time to think, I shoved it open and stumbled into yet another dimly lit room. This one was filled with old furniture covered in white sheets, like ghosts trapped beneath a shroud. I quickly scanned the room, looking for a way out. A large window loomed across from me, but black clouds obscured any light from the outside. I moved toward it, hoping there was a chance to escape. But as I reached for the latch, something caught my eye. On a dusty table nearby lay a tarnished silver locket, glinting in the low light. I hadn't noticed it before, and a strange compulsion urged me to pick it up. As I opened it, a picture fell out: two kids, laughing and carefree, their faces eerily familiar. My stomach twisted. Tommy? I murmured, keeping my voice low. I held the locket closer, my heart racing. Before I could process what I was feeling, a shadow flickered past the doorframe. I dropped the locket, letting out a strangled scream as another figure burst in: a child, small and ragged, eyes wide in fear. Help me! He cried, but his voice carried an unnatural echo, deepening the chilling atmosphere. I felt ice creep up my spine. Was he real? Or another trick of this place? Who are you? I stammered. Run! He shouted, panic etched into his features, before he turned and dashed down another dark corridor. My instincts screamed at me to follow him, but a sliver of doubt crept in. What if he led me into a trap? Then, the laughter returned, piercing through my thoughts, dragging me back to my sense of urgency. Tommy was somewhere in this maze, and if I didn't act fast I bolted after the boy, my breath coming in short bursts. Wait! I yelled, but he had already vanished around a corner. The whispers intensified, swirling around me, pushing me deeper into the maze of rooms that I turned the corner, but the boy was nowhere to be seen. Instead, I found myself facing a wall lined with mirrors, reflecting my terrified expression back at me. I caught my breath. Was this another trick? Each mirror showed a different version of me, a distorted face, a shadowy figure, someone who looked utterly lost, and then something moved behind me. I spun around, heart hammering against my chest. All the voices fell silent. I was no longer alone. Standing at the end of the corridor was the girl. Her smile widened, revealing rows of sharp teeth as she pointed at the mirrors. "You're in the game now," she said, her voice slicing through the silence. Panic surged through me. I had to escape, but the way back was swallowed in shadows. Then, in one horrid moment, I realized the reflections weren't of me anymore. They were of Tommy, trapped behind the glass, banging on the surface, desperate for help. My heart sank. I had to save him. The room began to spin. I couldn't let him remain there. "Tommy!" I called, lunging toward the mirrors, determination taking over my fear. But the girl lunged forward too, her laughter morphing into a deep cacophony that enveloped me. The game was getting worse. I had to find a way out, and fast. I didn't know who was faster, the girl or my racing thoughts. I flung myself at the nearest mirror, my hands pressed against the cold glass. "Tommy!" I shouted again, my voice trembling. He was still there, his tiny fists pounding against the surface, desperation written all over his face. I felt the weight of hope and dread battling within me. The girl laughed, a sound that dripped with malice. "Why are you wasting your time?" she taunted, tilting her head as if she was enjoying a game. I couldn't focus on her. I needed to break through, to reach Tommy. I strained against the mirror, as if sheer will could pull him through. "I'll save you, just hold on," I screamed. But my hands slipped off the glass, leaving nothing but streaks of panic where I had pressed. Suddenly, the laughter vanished. The room fell into an unsettling silence, broken only by the soft thud of Tommy still banging inside. His eyes widened, signaling panic. "Please," he pleaded, voice muffled. "Don't leave me." Then, without warning, the mirrors shifted. They rippled like liquid, distorting my reflection. I stumbled back, startled. The girl stepped closer, her smile now sinister. "You're not ready for what's next," she whispered. I had to act. Turning away from her, I began to scour the room for something, anything that could help me save him. That's when I saw it, half hidden behind a dusty chair. A large iron key lay on the floor, tarnished but intact. It seemed to pulse with energy. I seized it, the cold metal sending a jolt through my fingers. Maybe it was the key to the other room I'd seen, the one with the window. I spun around, adrenaline coursing through me as I headed back toward the door, determination replacing dread, but the girl was already there, blocking my path. She lunged at me, teeth bared. "You can't leave," she screeched, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. I ducked under her outstretched arm, sprinting for the door that I fumbled with the key as I reached it, the weight of it feeling both heavy and reassuring. The door creaked open, and I hurled myself through, narrowly dodging the girl's grasp. I emerged into a hallway, darker than the rest. The echoes of my footsteps bounced back at me, eerily amplified. "Tommy!" I shouted, my voice breaking as I pressed on. "Where are you?" The further I went, the more the walls seemed to close in, as if the house was alive, breathing down my neck. Turning down another corridor, I spotted a door at the end, slightly ajar. Clutching the key, I approached it cautiously. Then everything went dark. A gust of wind whipped past me, extinguishing the dim lights in the hall, leaving me in utter blackness. I couldn't see, couldn't hear anything except my own shaky breaths. "Tommy?" I whispered into the void, but my voice was swallowed whole. I stood there, heart racing, feeling the oppressive silence bearing down. From somewhere in the darkness, I heard the faintest sound, the jingling of keys. My blood ran cold. I wasn't alone. The girl was here, lurking in the shadows, and she wasn't finished with me yet. The darkness seemed alive, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket as I stumbled forward, trying to find my way. The shadows twisted and contorted, and I could feel eyes watching from the corners, waiting. Tommy! I cried out again, desperation creeping into my voice. Then, the lights flickered back to life, revealing the corridor once more, but emptier than before. I stood frozen for a moment, heart pounding in my chest. I felt like I was being drawn deeper into the hospital's haunted embrace, and despite the fear gnawing at my insides, I had to keep moving that I pressed on towards the slightly open door at the end of the hall. I could see that it led to an expansive room filled with old hospital equipment covered in dust. The room felt thick with memories, like ghosts lingering in the air. I stepped inside, taking stock of the unfamiliar surroundings. It was quiet, too quiet. As I scanned the room, my gaze landed on a flickering light in the far corner. I edged closer, and that's when I noticed it, a familiar teddy bear, lying abandoned on a peeling hospital bed. My breath hitched. Tommy. I croaked, but the room swallowed my voice. As I reached for the bear, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows thickened, and the air turned frigid. Help us, a chorus of whispers echoed, rising from all corners of the room. My skin prickled. Why did I feel like they were coming from everywhere and nowhere at once? Heart racing, I turned around, but the door had silently swung shut behind me. Tommy! I shouted, panic clawing at my throat. I ran to the door, but it wouldn't budge, locked tight by some unseen force. Behind me, the whispers turned to laughter, bright but chilling, and I felt a presence looming close. I whirled around to see the girl with the haunting smile standing next to the bed, her eyes glinting with malice. You shouldn't have come here, she sang, tilting her head. You can't leave us. Where is Tommy? I yelled, my voice cracking. What do you want? Play with us, she chimed sweetly, her smile almost stretching too wide for her face. Before I could respond, the shadows deepened, wrapping around the bed frame. You won't find the way out without helping. I backed away slowly, dread flooding my body. I wasn't sure what helping meant, but I wasn't going to find out. I recoiled from her, scanning the room for another escape. But as I turned, everything shifted again. The walls began to ripple like water, and suddenly, I was back in the hallway, the door now locked behind me. The laughter faded, and silence returned, broken only by the slow, soft sound of my own breathing. Tommy. I whispered, trying to steady my nerves as I crept down the hallway. I needed to keep searching. Each step felt heavy, filled with the weight of unanswered questions. I reached what looked like an old playroom, toys scattered everywhere. I hesitated again, feeling the same chill I had since coming here. It felt like stepping into a graveyard for childhoods long forgotten. In the corner, I caught a glimpse of something, a flicker of movement. Tommy. There he was, crouched behind a small table, his eyes wide but filled with something I couldn't place, not fear, but a strange acceptance. You found me, he whispered faintly, as if trying to convince us both that it was okay. But before I could approach him, the laughter returned, ringing out through the room, echoing in my ears until it drowned out everything else. No. I yelled, looking around frantically. We need to leave, Tommy. No more running. The girl's voice echoed as she glided around the room, her smile bright against the shadows. You can stay and play forever. Something in Tommy's expression shifted. I don't want to play anymore, he murmured, and for a brief moment, the weight of dread lifted. Help us leave, he said, eyes imploring me. Okay, just hold on. I lunged towards him, but the girl intercepted me, scattering the toys in a whirlwind of laughter. I felt her cold grip on my arm, pulling me back just as I reached for Tommy. Stay with us. She cried, her voice rising above the laughter, with a surge of adrenaline. I tore free from her grasp and sprinted towards Tommy. But as I reached him, the world twisted again, and suddenly he was gone, vanished like smoke. What? I gasped, spinning around. The room shifted, teetering on the brink of reality, and I ran. Just run. I fled back into the dark corridor, my heart racing with the echoes of laughter mixed with shouts of children. You can't escape what you are. I burst through another door, finding myself in a small room filled with more discarded toys, eerie figures watching from the corner. My heart sank when I saw a reflection in an old mirror. I was not just escaping, I was already lost. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling despair creeping in. Bursting back out into the hallway, shadows danced along the walls, crawling closer as I sprinted forward. I'm not staying. I shouted to the darkness, knowing it was futile. I could feel the weight of all the lost souls surrounding me, laughing and wanting to keep me there forever. The hall stretched on forever, and I hardly dared look back, fearing what I might see. The laughter echoed behind me, urging me on, yet I could feel the distance between reality and the twisted realm narrowing. I had a choice, to succumb to the whispers or to keep fighting against everything that sought to drag me into the shadows. Tommy! I yelled one last time, not caring if he could hear me. We're getting out. I pressed on, my heart heavy with dread but laced with a flickering hope. Even though I couldn't see him, I would find him. I had to escape this place, but something told me this was just the beginning. The maze of shadows would always haunt me, the laughter would linger, and I knew I might never truly be free. But the chase continued, and so did I, even as the darkness beckoned. As I reached a corner, everything went dark again, and I felt a chill coursing through my veins. I opened my eyes and saw the flickering lights overhead. I was awake, lying on the floor of the abandoned hospital. Shakily, I stood up and turned around, but there was nothing there. The laughter, the shadows, everything had vanished, but would it last? I moved through the empty halls, feeling the heaviness in the air, the weight of what had transpired lingering like a shadow. The echoes of laughter and whispers still danced on the edge of my sanity, forever etched in my mind. Even now, I found myself wondering, was it all real? Or just a figment of my imagination brought to life by the isolation? I left that night, making a promise to never return. Yet, deep down, something urged me to stay curious. I'd moved on, yes, but a part of me would always wonder what truly happened in that hospital, and would the shadows ever catch up to me? Would they haunt my dreams and transform my reality? I had escaped, for now.